We're back. Welcome to the Penn State Wrestling Show. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Greg Pickel with me. I almost forgot my own name to start the show, Greg, because it's been a bit since we were here on screen talking about Penn State wrestling. Obviously, wrestling was on a break for a while over the holidays, and then we were busy, especially last week. Greg and everybody else from Blue White Illustrated was in Florida to cover Penn State football's chase of a college football playoff and national championship run that is over. And now we are here back locked in for the remainder of the Penn State wrestling schedule. And today we're going to be talking about the Michigan State dual meet, recapping that and previewing a much more interesting matchup with Nebraska. So Greg, welcome back. Are you also sick? Everyone I've talked to this week, including people I haven't talked to from the staff that went to Florida, all got sick. And I was the only one who didn't go. So I'm just wondering, did you avoid it? And was it something like in the food? What happened down there?
Yeah, no, rolling along quite well. Made it back on Friday of last week in time to cover the Michigan State Penn State dual meet from home. Certainly did not have time to drive up to State College for that, but was able to follow it from Harrisburg, and it was a tremendously impressive performance. But no, have overcome that so far, T. Frank, and hopefully it stays that way. But I know a lot of people out there are saying similar things. A lot going around right now. So if you remember correctly, this is something that impacted. I'm not sure this is the direction you were going with this, but I will take it there. Illness was something that impacted the Penn State starting lineup and lineups across the country in college wrestling last year, starting right around this time. Not suggesting anything as it relates to Penn State's upcoming matches or anything like that, but just pointing out that it's not just regular people or us or whoever that get sick. It's certainly anyone. So something to keep in mind. That was an issue for Penn State and its opponents, starting with basically this time last year. But Penn State was healthy, locked and loaded against Michigan State. There is no doubt about that. The Spartans were not.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that here in a sec.
Yeah, let's just get into it right now. 55-0 Friday night. What did we learn? What can you learn from a situation like that where you're going up against an opponent that is clearly outmatched?
Yeah, the Spartans were not full go last Friday at Rec Hall. I'm not sure if it was illness, injury, a mixture of the two, but they were certainly not full go, and Penn State took full advantage of it, posting their fourth shutout of the season, a 55 nothing win over the Spartans. It was not one of the better Spartans teams that Penn State has faced over of course, the long tenure of Cale Sanderson. So what can you learn? I think the most important thing to me was that this team could sense that bonus points were there to be had. And they don't really matter in these dual meets, especially not one where you win 10 of them, right? It's irrelevant. When you shut out the other team, it doesn't matter how many points you beat them by. But it matters come tournament time. If you want to obviously win a national title and potentially set scoring records, things like that, you better be able to rack up the bonus points in most, if not all, of the 10 weight classes. And Penn State showcased, some guys didn't necessarily win. Not everyone, I guess everyone did win by bonus points, some quicker than others, some by more than others, in terms of major decisions, technical falls, and pins, of which Penn State had 6. But it was 6 pins, 3 technical falls, and a major. And everyone looked good. I mean, I'm sure there were some things coming out of those matches that Cale Sanderson and his staff want his wrestlers to work on. But by and large, this was about probably as good of a performance as you could have hoped for Penn State coming out of this match. And, it gets them ready as they kick off Big Ten action for the much tougher challenges ahead.
So Penn State is in an aggressive program. They want that anyway. So where are the areas where you saw the most opportunity for growth for that of chasing bonus points, and who are the wrestlers that you think have the most opportunity to gain that throughout the season and showed some of that to you here against Michigan State?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. I think number one, when you look at across the lineup, Penn State comes into this Big Ten portion of its 2024-2025 schedule with some guys that were fighting for lineup spots when the season started. Now, I think we all kind of assumed Luke Lillidahl would be the guy at 125 pounds. I think we all pretty much assumed that once, there was obviously was going to come down to Tyler Kasich and Alex Facundo at 57, and that was going to be a bit of a toss-up, but it was also, I think, going to be tough for Facundo to cut that weight and win that job. And then Tyler Kasich and Lucas Cochran, or I'm sorry, not Tyler Kasich, Josh Barr and Lucas Cochran at 197. It seemed like it was probably going to be Josh Barr's job, and it has been. And I think the biggest thing I've learned, T. Frank, is that those three guys have taken the bull by the horns and run with it. Kasich, not a surprise, even though it's a different weight because he was an All-American last year, wrestled back to finish third at 149 a season ago. But Barr had to wait his turn, and I'm sure it was not easy. And Lillidahl comes as one of the more accomplished prep wrestlers Penn State has brought into its storied program and has taken that success right onto the mat. So I think that's one thing I learned between the non-conference and the start of the conference portion of the schedule. And then as it relates to areas of improvement, I do think that there may have been some chances to get more bonus points in the non-conference portion of the schedule. And they maybe, I don't want to say they weren't taken advantage of, but because, again, they weren't necessarily needed in any of the matches Penn State won. It's now 7-0. But during its 6-0 start prior to last Friday, the bonus points weren't needed to win any of those matches. But there were probably some chances to get some, and they were left on the mat. They were not left on the mat on Friday night, and I think that's a step forward from their holiday training, and we'll see if that can continue this weekend in Lincoln.
Yeah, sixth ranked Nebraska, according to Intermat, is next up Friday on BTN. So you can check that out, and you can follow along at bluewhiteillustrated.com, which is where Greg is going to be discussing and reporting and live reporting, I'm assuming, on the dual meet. So subscribe, by the way, $1 for a week of access, so you can talk to Greg and get on the message board. And if you like Penn State content in general, we got everything from basketball, football, recruiting. Everything is full steam go. And of course, wrestling here, Greg, one of the best at recovering the beat in particular of all the things that are happening and giving you the lowdown on what you need to know about Penn State wrestling. So you can check that out, bluewhiteillustrated.com. So let's preview that dual meet. What are you looking for in this one in terms of what you want to learn? And then, of course, the matches that will highlight the evening on Friday.
Yeah, no doubt. So I think that, again, Penn State will be favored. I don't want to overhype this because Penn State will be favored to win this dual meet, and I believe that'll be I don't have the number in front of me, but it's 60 plus in a row. Penn State streak of consecutive dual meet victories. It is expected to extend that streak on Friday night in Lincoln, but this will be one of the tougher tests that Cale Sanderson's program faces this year. Nebraska is number 6 in the country, as you mentioned, brings a very talented team to town, or to its home venue as it relates to this particular match, but to town wherever it goes when it goes on the road, and we'll have at least 9 ranked starters, maybe 10. I'm not sure if everyone in that lineup from a starter perspective is going to wrestle. We'll see. Obviously, same goes for Penn State. You never know until weigh-ins, but assuming we get all the starters, it would be 10 ranked matches, which is awesome. Penn State has some pretty significant ranking advantage in some of these matches, as we'll detail, especially in the upper weights, which is never a surprise when you have Carter Starachi and Mitchell Messenbrink up there and Greg Kirkfleet. You're more often than not against Big Ten opponents or otherwise going to have pretty significant seeded or rankings advantages in those upper weights. So Penn State will be anticipated to win this match, as it has done so often over the last number of years in the dual meet portion of its schedule. But I think it will face some challenges. I think it will give some guys some things to work on, and there's a couple matches that we'll highlight that we're hoping to see here on Friday, here in a moment. But just overall, I think it's a good chance for Penn State to get out on the road. Cale Sanderson has talked before about how those road trips lead to great bonding experiences. Penn State, of course, had a couple road dual matches, including the trip to Lehigh for the Allentown, to Allentown for the Lehigh match, and then to Nashville for the collegiate wrestling duel. So they had a chance to do that some before the holidays. Now they'll get a chance for the first time in 2025 to do it afterwards and continue building their team and individual progress as nationals, sit however many days away they sit, 2 months or so away.
Yeah, so what are the matches that you're interested in, and how do you think these play out? Like, you give us your preview and your expectation of some of these top 10, top 15 duels that are on the mat this coming weekend.
Yeah, so you're going to see them, assuming this match starts at 125 pounds, which is where most college wrestling matches do. If you followed the Michigan State match, it started at 285. Why that was the case, I'm not 100% sure, but whoever won the coin toss decided to start there. More often than not, 125 is where these start. Now, I'm telling you, if Nebraska does win the coin toss, it's not out of the question that they will change where they start this match, maybe to try and get on a roll late. Hope they can weather the Penn State storm early and then try and get on a roll late where they have some rankings advantages sort of in their lightweights, or they could decide they want to try and jump on Penn State and then hang on. We'll see. I don't know if either path is the right one or the one that could be the most successful, but they're going to have to make their mind up if they win the toss. If Penn State wins it, I'm sure they will start at 125 pounds, where you would see number 12 Luke Littledahl of Penn State, who we talked about a moment ago, against number 6 Caleb Smith. That is the projected matchup at 125. It's hard to pick against Littledahl, but Caleb Smith is an extremely talented wrestler, and as we all know, you have to be able to take your game on the road. And Luke Littledahl, throughout his prep career and so far in his collegiate career, has obviously shown he is capable of doing that. And you look at everything that he's able to do, both on his feet and on the mat. And he's a guy that you don't want to pick against. He's 10-0, but Caleb Smith comes into this match at 12-3. Has faced some tough guys already this year, so I'd give Littledahl a slight lean. But Caleb Smith wrestling at home, it's a match he can win and give Luke Littledahl potentially his first college loss. So should be a good one there. Going up to 141, third-ranked Bo Bartlett will take on sixth-ranked Brock Hardy of Nebraska in a match. I'm sure those guys have wrestled before. I have not had time to completely go back through, but pretty good chance, I would think, of that being the case. Give Bartlett a slight edge, but as we know with Bartlett, if he struggles to get his offense going, he can be beaten on really any night. And there's not too many guys that are capable of doing it. I'm not sure Brock Hardy will be capable of doing it on this night, but I could see this one being more of a toss-up going into the third period than maybe some would expect. But we'll see on that front. Bo Bartlett, of course, very good against Michigan State. Moving up to 149, Shane Van Ness, former All-American, returning now in his starting spot, of course, at 149. He'll face Ridge Lovett from Nebraska, number 4 there. Going to be a great match. Shane Van Ness, T. Frank, has not looked like a wrestler who was hurt right around this time last year, maybe about a month ago last year, and missed a lot of time on the mat, in the training room, so on and so forth, due to a lower body injury. Just not look like that guy. Ridge Lovett will be the latest to put him to a test, and I have no reason to pick against Shane Van Ness until he gives me one. I think we've seen now that he's healthy, he's ready to roll. And it should be a close match, but I think Shane Van Ness comes out on top. And then at 157, the guy who held that 149 spot for Shane Van Ness a year ago, Tyler Kasak, number 3 in the country, bumps up to face number 5, Antrell Taylor from Nebraska. Again, another close match. I would give the Lions the edge on, even if slight at this point. But overall, if you're looking for where Nebraska could try and pull the upset, it's going to be with probably an unexpected result in one of those weight classes. If those all go Penn State's way, it is very challenging to see a path to victory for Nebraska. Even if 2 of them go Penn State's way, it's still challenging. Or I'm sorry, if 2 of them go Nebraska's way, it's still challenging to see a path to victory for them. So, like I said, I think the Penn State dual meet streak, of course, will continue, but very interested to see some of these matches play out and some guys for Penn State get a test that maybe they haven't seen so far yet this year.
All right. Well, where can people follow along with you, and how are you presenting all this to Penn State wrestling fans wherever they get your content?
Yeah, so we'll over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com on Friday night. We'll have updates rolling along on the homepage, so you can check that out, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. We'll be discussing it on the Lions Den message board and Inside the Wrestling Room message board, so check us out there too. And, of course, you will be able to watch it if you subscribe to Big Ten Network, so you can watch that live there. The Penn State Radio Network will be live on Lion Vision as well, but we'll have you covered no matter how you choose to follow the match over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. It's a late tip, 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're out and about and you're looking for something to do while you're out and about, or if you're at home and just relaxing, join us over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com and follow Penn State as it goes for another dual meet victory in its lengthy and long and multi-year consecutive dual meet streak at Nebraska Friday night.
Yeah, they really take the anticipation out of it when it's just a clear expectation, and obviously that is something that they've earned throughout the years. But we'll be Greg is awesome at covering it and makes it all interesting. And of course, Penn State fans Love all that stuff. So check out bluewhiteillustrated.com. Once again, thanks for being here on the Penn State Wrestling Show. We'll be back next week. Wednesdays are the new day. Now that Penn State football season is over, we have Wednesdays available, and that's going to be when we're posting this at 5 p.m. That's going to be the rhythm for as long as that continues. Spring football may move some stuff around, although I don't know at this point if it will, but that's what we're doing here. Penn State Wrestling Show, Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Make sure you come back next week because we're going to be talking about recapping Nebraska and looking ahead to the next thing with Penn State Wrestling.